I do not think it should be flown on public property, like in front of a state house. You can also fly it at protests. But he mentioned misconceptions. There are no misconceptions about that flag. The flag that we see today is not...
So back in 2015, a little video called the Confederate Flag Debate was uploaded and published. So this video contained a debate on the topic of the Confederate flag. And with this debate, it was held by a former East teacher, Mr. Muhammad. And Mr. Muhammad's goal with this debate was to have East students involved about talking about the Confederate flag. So with this, many supporters and defenders of the Confederate flag came in, such as those who support flying the flag, and obviously those who do believe that flying the Confederate flag is wrong. So on both sides, we have two prominent talkers. Number one would be Drakios. He is someone who believes that flying the Confederate flag is right. And then on the other side, we have Christopher Justice. Christopher's goal in this debate was to try to prove Drakios wrong, and the reason why the Confederate flag is so wrong to fly. And so in the end, Christopher defended his idea that flying the Confederate flag is wrong, and Drakios still kept with the idea that it is alright to fly the Confederate flag. So after this was published, it became very viral and has almost 3 million views now, and that was 5 years ago. And even so, we still get comments about Christopher Justice. I'm sure if you look through all of our videos, you can find some type of comment about Christopher Justice. I always saw these comments about Christopher Justice, and I wondered, could I interview him? So a few months ago, when I was doing my Career Break series, somebody mentioned Christopher Justice on there. I offered, hey, what if I interviewed him? And I did. I interviewed him. So please enjoy this video, as I put a pretty hard work into this. Christopher is nice and he's really fun. So always make sure that if you're gonna have a conversation or some type of debate in the comments, always to be respectful of others, and just make sure to watch the whole video. Thank you.
Hello.
Chris.
Hi.
Oh my gosh, it's really you.
Yep.
Sorry.
Weird.
Yeah, and it is weird. This is my first online interview too. So it's a bit of a, obviously not the best situation for us to be doing an interview, but at least it does work.
Right.
So I'm just gonna be asking you a good decent amount of questions, and then I'm going to also have you give a bit of your political belief, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, and then I'm also going to give you like what's your thoughts on like some of the comments that were also on the Confederate flag video, because there's also a really decent amount of good positive ones for it too.
Yeah. My name is Christopher Henry Justice. I'm currently a student at Johnson County Community College, although I will be returning to Wichita State in time for the spring semester. So
Ooh.
COVID kind of messed that setup up. So.
Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah, I started out in sport management actually, but I guess I just woke up one day and thought to myself, oh man, somebody's got to do something about this. So I switched to political science. Mm-hmm.
I was reading about how you were into sports management like 20 minutes ago, and I was expecting something along the lines of that, but that's actually really interesting, so thank you. And then also on the topic of quarantine and coronavirus, COVID, what were you doing during quarantine? Like, what was your main thing?
What have I been doing? Oddly enough, I've been cleaning my room, so I have a nice area to be in. I've been going on walks, trying to get back in shape. My metabolism turned traitor about 2 years ago, so I wish I had listened to my father. I've also been working. I am taking one online class so that I can keep my mind active and don't, overwhelm myself. Been playing lots of video games. My personal favorite is Kaiserreich. It's a mod for the game Hearts of Iron 4, where the Germans win the First World War.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's really cool.
Huh. But no. So it's been 5 years since your debut as the hero of our school. So Christopher Justice, yeah. So as you may well know, you received an abundance of support in the comment section. So like before the Confederate flag debate, what was your whole mindset into coming into into the debate? Like from what you can remember.
Yeah, my mindset going into the debate was basically, look, the best way to make arguments is to have evidence to back you up. So I did, honestly, the bare minimum of research. I went in thinking, okay, so a lot of people believe that it was about states' rights. A lot of people believe it was about slavery. What's the actual evidence? So I did something crazy. I looked at what the leaders of the Confederacy actually wrote, and I took them at their word. And almost like you can look at basically any state's declaration of secession, and what they were saying was, we're worried that this Lincoln guy is going to end the institution of slavery, so we're seceding. It wasn't a secret. It's not something they tried to hide. Frankly, it's kind of insulting to them that people try to cover that up, considering that's literally what a lot of them died for.
Yeah.
Abhorrent cause as it is, but I think that if former Confederates were around today, they'd be kind of offended by that.
Hold on, I'm thinking for a bit, because I remember in the comment section, a lot of people were saying on like how you were actually the most informed in the whole debate, because your whole battle against Drake Yost, because it seemed like in the video that you were going back and forth with Drake Yost over and over. So I just think that's really interesting, honestly.
Poor guy didn't know the difference between the Confederate Constitution and the Articles of Confederation.
Mm-hmm. I remember that moment. I mainly look at your parts, because those are like honestly the most important parts in the whole video. I'm not even gonna lie, but I've seen those parts at least like 6 times. So I'm gonna bit stray away from the bit political right now. We'll get back into it, but okay. So how old were you when that video came out?
Oh man, it was 2015.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was right after the Royals won the World Series. So I was 15 going on 16. So
dang. That's actually my age right now.
Nice.
So, okay, that's great. Okay. And then, how old are you right now?
I am 20 years old. I will be turning 21 in December.
All right. Well, I guess early birthday to you then.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So, back on COVID, what were your initial thoughts about, COVID-19 outbreak, and like what was your whole emotions like going through?
Okay. I'm the kind of person that follows the news really closely, and I'm really interested in foreign policy, so I know the basics about various relationships between different countries. For a lot of people, this began in March, which I understand because that's when things really hit the fan in the United States. I knew that this was probably going to be a big problem for the world back in December. I didn't know how bad it would get, but I remember the MSNBC and CNN were covering this outbreak in China, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. It's in Wuhan, which is it's in that part of China that's basically one giant city, like along the Yangtze. It's basically just one giant urban area, and I thought, oh boy, if this is as contagious as people are saying, it's going to be a problem. China is a major trade hub. But the thing that convinced me that it was going to be a problem was when the Taiwanese said the Chinese are covering up evidence of how bad this is. Now, Taiwan is officially known as the Republic of China, as opposed to the People's Republic of China. So a bit of backstory. In 1949, when the Chinese communists rose to power, the previous government, the nationalists, fled to Taiwan. And ever since then, the government on the mainland has wanted to invade Taiwan. So Taiwan's whole intelligence apparatus is focused entirely on the mainland. And I would take this to the bank on foreign policy. If the Taiwanese tell you something's happening on the Chinese mainland, it's probably happening on the Chinese mainland. So when they started saying, hey, this is the real deal, the Chinese government isn't telling the truth about how infectious this is, I thought, oh, dang, if this thing gets out of China, it's going to be a problem.
I didn't know about with all that, but that is really good to know. So I'm glad that at least you were already informed on the coronavirus rather than what everybody else, because I'm pretty sure everybody was in the same mindset on the same day.
Right.
Yeah. But shoot. So I guess that's interesting with it. But so now I'll have you read out some comments that are obviously in the Confederate flag video. Mm-hmm. So this one is by Ella Rose Riddle. Okay, this is it's a quote by you. So it's okay, go ahead. You have the right to fly the flag, but you also must understand we have the right to burn it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are you still in that same type of mindset with it, like the Confederate flag? Do you still have
I absolutely am. My entire life I've really liked the United States. We've had our problems, but you know, we have a lot of potential. And to me, the Confederacy, you know, funny story, I once had somebody ask me what a Union flag looked like. And I pointed to an American flag and I said, that's a Union flag. So what I think a lot of people forget about the Confederacy is not only was the war about slavery, the people they were killing were American soldiers. Like, they killed more American troops than the Nazis, the Viet Cong, and the British combined. Like, I think goes over a lot of people's heads. So I actually view burning Confederate flags as an act of patriotism, as a way to show disrespect towards an enemy that, you know, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this, if the Confederacy would have won, that wouldn't have just been an extension on slavery, that would have been the end of the Union. Because if the South was allowed to leave because someone they didn't like was elected president, what would happen if someone that New England didn't like was elected president? What are you going to do? Stop them? Didn't stop the South, so...
No, I actually agree with that one on that. Because, obviously, as you know, the Confederacy was obviously traitors. And when people say, like, oh, the Confederacy is my pride, it stands for what... It's Confederacy is my thing. But I do agree with what you said on how it feels like more of a patriot act of burning the Confederate to pay support to, you know, the United States of America. So, yeah.
And to those people who use the whole pride argument, let me counter by saying I actually have Confederate blood. I am related to a man named Benjamin Franklin Leonard, who served in the Army of Northern Virginia and was captured at the Battle of Gettysburg. I am related to him, and I will say without reservation, Benjamin Franklin Leonard was a filthy traitor.
Oh, that's good. So proud of you, Chris. Good. I would pay homage to you every single day, but thank you. Okay, so the next one is by Gregory F. And this one is Chris sounds like the liberal version of Ben Shapiro.
Oh my God. You know, I went through a bit of a right-wing phase. Like, I never stopped believing what I did about the Civil War, oddly enough, but I actually liked Ben Shapiro for a bit. But then I woke up to the fact that his whole shtick is just talking really fast so that nobody really can think about what he's saying.
Oh, I've heard that statement before on how he speaks. But this one's by Mia Angelina. So this one is upsetting to see, but it says, upsetting to see that kids in the room are laughing at Christopher, as if he's not one of the only ones bringing up valid points. He's probably one of the smartest one in the room. The difference in maturity are insane. So what do you have to say for that?
Yeah, honestly, I don't really know what, and no offense, I don't really know what you would expect from kids in that age group, but yeah, I will admit some of them were probably laughing at me of like, nerd, but I feel like you also need to take into consideration that people weren't really expecting someone to actually take this debate seriously. Like, I think people went in and just assumed that it was going to be, I have right to fly flag. It is offensive. I have right to fly flag. They didn't really think that, somebody would come in and say, okay, well, here's what actually happened.
And no, I'm glad that you took it seriously, honestly. I remember seeing the video before I knew about you, and I saw the whole debate. But I remember, and I took it as seriously as I could, because it was obviously about the Confederate flag. It was a pretty serious topic, whether you like it or not. But I remember watching the whole video, and I remember the statements and arguments they made sometimes were invalid, sometimes were on their own belief. And it kind of angered me that nobody was stepping up and saying anything, especially on the topic of Drake Yost and what he was saying. So honestly, when you stepped up to counterattack against Drake Yost's arguments and statements, it made me kind of happy that at least you were the one to be brave enough to stand up against those who still believe as if the Confederate flag means something else than traitors. So that's how I feel about it.
All right.
This one's by Marshall Wolf. It's how much longer till we can vote for Chris to be president?
I believe you have to be 36 to run for president?
I believe it's 35 or 36.
16 years, give or take. I don't know if I'm ever actually going to run. I do want a job in politics, but okay, if I were to be elected president, the people at the CIA and the Library of Congress would never get any sleep, because I'm the kind of guy where random information pops into my head when I'm trying to go to sleep. And if a fact pops up that I don't know about, I can't sleep until I find it out. So I can totally see myself waking up one night and calling the CIA and being like, how many men does Hezbollah have? And the CIA is like, why, sir? Are you planning a strike? No, I just can't sleep. Tell me how many men Hezbollah has.
Well, honestly, I feel like you'd be a great president. Oh yeah, and then also on the topic, did you happen to see the debate last night?
I didn't, because I knew exactly what was going to happen. I knew that Biden would go in and, try and have a civil argument, and Trump would just interrupt him every second. And that's exactly what happened. And I figure I already know who I'm going to vote for. It's obviously not Trump, and it's just, what's the point? It's like, and a lot of people were giving Chris Wallace crap for how he managed the debate, and I'm like, okay, there are rules to debate. Essentially what just happened is these two campaigns agreed to a football game, and Trump was offside at the start of every play. Like, you can't give the moderator trouble for, throwing a flag every play because Trump was legitimately offsides.
Oh yeah. Especially during, I watched the whole thing, but especially during Biden, he had a segment where he had to be interrupted for 2 minutes. And what do you expected?
Yeah.
Exactly. Trump interrupted him, and then Biden got an extra 30 seconds, and then I believe another 30 seconds because on how much Trump interrupted him, even though they both agreed to not interrupt each other during those segments like that. So
honestly, it would be better if we could mute both of them.
That's what I was thinking. Like Trump, you need to be quiet. Yeah. You're on mute right now. Just let him go. I feel like that would also be a better solution to it.
But then he'd probably learn sign language so he could still get his points across.
Or he'd put like an L on his head, like just like that. I mean, it's a childish act for him. Kind of fits his role, to be honest.
Yeah. Fun fact about Trump, he once single-handedly destroyed a professional football league.
A professional football league?
United States Football League, 1983 to 1985. Look it up. Holy.
I'll make sure to look that up, honestly. Alright. Okay, so this one's by Sean Smith. He's talking about Mr. Muhammad, the teacher. So it's a moderator. This is a quote from him, and no one is going to win this debate. Chris, hold my beer.
Yeah, again, I feel like that was just down to people's expectations. I'm from the Midwest. I don't like to give myself a lot of credit, but I feel like the way that I was going about it was different from the way everybody else was going about it.
Yeah. But I back to that one statement I said. I'm still so glad that you took that statement. I mean that debate serious, because I feel like if you weren't there, also Shawnee Mission East would be regarded as a very racist school, and especially Drake Yost would be the highlight of that for defending the Confederate flag. So I'm glad at least you defended our title and stuff. But thank you. This one is by Jazz, and it says, "I hate everyone that's laughing at Chris. Chris, if you're out there, you did great. I hope you're doing well."
Again, I feel like some people were laughing at me for bad reasons, and some people were just laughing because they were surprised about, what I was doing. But in response to the hope that I'm doing well, I'm doing a lot better than I have been doing recently. I'd be doing a lot better if we weren't all on lockdown, but yeah, I'm managing.
You're managing? At least that's better than before then. I would say that's a big improvement. Olivia DiGuardo says, "Chris is going places. He is intelligent, speaks clearly, and gets his point across perfectly." So.
I hope they're right. I hope I am going places.
You hope
It'd be kind of boring if I stayed in the same spot.
I wouldn't expect that from you. I feel like you would go more places than you would expect. So, a lot of these comments are essentially a bunch of support for you. It's like, I hope Chris realizes the comments one day and realizes that we actually appreciate him. And then also, as a black man, I'm ashamed to say that my man Chris was more educated on the Confederate flag than I am. And just more basic stuff as that. So I'm sure the comment section, or have you ever read the comment section in the Confederate flag debate?
I have, actually. And a lot of people are, commenting about how does he know all this stuff? And I don't know all this stuff. And I wish I went to Chris's school because, they assume that I learned that stuff at school. The problem is our history classes really don't cover this stuff very in depth. Like, I've had teachers who tried to get me to sympathize with the Confederacy, and that didn't work out. And that it's really not people's fault that they don't know about all this stuff. And I only know this stuff because I find it interesting and I know how to get access to the information. I'm interested in military history, so I know a lot about, the 20th century and American history in general. It's not people's fault that they don't know this stuff. They just don't know how to get to the information.
I'm thinking about what you said on that, but for the most part, that I've really never thought about it, to be honest, in that way. As if, like, most people, I would feel like, just search up something and expect that to be the actual truth right there. But I'm glad that you are able to find the truth or anything in that type of favor in your way. But so, and then the last question that will be before we get a bit more political with it is, what have you been doing? Like, if you could summarize what you've been doing for the past 5 years.
Okay, let's see, summarize the past 5 years. I did the Civil War reenacting before the debate, so I guess that doesn't fall into the purview. I was on the Union side, of course. Let's see. Theater. Fell in love. Heartbreak. Stopped doing theater. Self-isolation. Worked way too many hours at the movie theater. Metabolism turned traitor. Let's see, what else? Graduated. Actually, before that, played D&D with some friends and reestablished connections. I love Dungeons and Dragons. Graduated. Went to Wichita State. Made friends. Had a political reawakening. Went back home. Went back to Wichita State. Played more D&D. And then COVID hits. Changed major. and spend the last few months playing D&D over Discord with my friends.
Oh, I've been actually meaning to try to get into D&D, honestly. I think me being the only person in my friend group who doesn't play D&D is kind of hard, but
Tabletop games is a great place to start.
All right, then I'll make sure to try to do my best to get into it for it. But
well, it's the name of a shop. It's Tabletop Game and Hobby. They got everything you need to get started.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
It's,
okay,
just over on Metcalf near Glenwood, across the street from Vintage Stock. So.
Okay. I believe I know where that is.
Cool.
So before we start with political stuff, are you comfortable with answering like any of these questions? All right.
Yeah, I'm comfortable.
You're comfortable.
Although I do want to ask, is this going to be an article or a YouTube video?
I'm a YouTube video, if that's all right.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right then. So we're gonna start it off a bit easy. So
Okay.
Here's a bit of a fun question. So, but on the topic of space exploration, so many space programs, such as SpaceX, like by Elon Musk, for an example, have an end game goal to make the red planet inhabitable for humans to live on. Yeah. So 2024 is obviously Elon Musk's date. He aims to launch a crew onto it, and he says by 2050 he aims to have 1 million people on Mars. So, do you believe as this would be a smart idea for humanity as a whole, or do you believe we could do something better?
Am I in favor of colonizing Mars in general? Yes, I am. Staying on one planet is a horrible idea. We could blow each other up. We could, all die from a disease, or a big giant rock could hit us and boom, we're all dead. Whereas if we, have a second planet, it's the old adage of don't put your eggs in one basket. Do I think Musk is the right guy to do it? Honestly, Musk strikes me as, they say they modeled Iron Man off of him in the MCU movies. He's more of an egomaniac than Tony Stark in those movies. Especially like his recent thing of putting his workers in danger during the COVID pandemic. I don't think he to do the job. I think that either it needs to be an international effort, or I don't know, we need to have NASA do it. I do think it's a good goal to colonize Mars and, frankly, other planets, but I don't think that Elon Musk is the guy to do it. And also there becomes the question of does Mars now belong to one company? Is that company now a nation state? How exactly does that work?
I believe it's
I just think it would be.
Wow. I believe it's they're claiming land with it. So the USA would probably take this area of Mars, and it would probably be harder to distinguish which areas of land are which, because there's no oceans to separate the big lands from each other.
Right.
So are you comfortable with saying anything about George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and the whole incident and controversy that has come upon us ever since?
Yeah.
All right, so just give your take and I'll listen.
So we give the police military equipment to keep people safe, but they don't have the same checks in place as soldiers. I say this a lot to, summarize my frustration over the whole George Floyd and Breonna Taylor killing. When a soldier breaks the law, or does something incompetent, or gets civilians killed, there are protocols in place to make sure that guy gets court-martialed and dishonorably discharged. Because the way the military works is they want to be efficient, they want to get the job done, they don't want to kill people unnecessarily. But the way that the police system is set up, it seems to be that they're more concerned with protecting their own. And I don't think that's a good system, because if you look into why Breonna Taylor got killed, the officers were breaking into her boyfriend's house. They didn't have uniforms. They didn't identify themselves. And they just started breaking down this dude's door. And I'm thinking, yeah, of course he opened fire on them. And if this was the military and a unit of soldiers had done that, all of them would have gotten discharged. That's insanely amateur what they did. They didn't, obviously put civilian lives in danger. They put their own lives in danger by being reckless. So that's my take on it. I think that police need to be more disciplined if we are going to entrust them with these. I guess you can say it goes back to when you're a kid. If you can't behave, you're going to have your toys taken away.
No, that's a great idea for it. It's just really sad on what unfolded, but at least I'm hoping for in the future or somehow that these situations happen less often or near to none. You've kind of already answered this one right here, but Trump or Biden? So which one do you prefer? And in the end, without your own bias included, which one do you think will actually win? Like if you had to be unbiased on which one do you would actually think would win?
Okay, this is what I've been using to explain to other former Sanders voters why I support Biden. Imagine you're walking down the street with the love of your life, and then a crazy guy with a comb over and a really long red tie jumps out of an alleyway with a rusty machete, screaming about Mexicans and Muslims, and then he stabs her. And you call Dr. Bernie over at the hospital, and he says, "I apologize, but the ambulance won't get there for at least 4 years." So then Uncle Joe down the street, he's not a doctor, but he was like, I don't know, I guess you could say a medic at some point in his life, so he knows how to stop the bleeding. It's not a permanent fix, but it'll keep, your girlfriend alive. So by voting for Biden, you're doing less harm by stopping the bleeding. Like, I think that what people on the left don't seem to understand is they have this unrealistic dedication to their values, which at times is a good thing, but at the same time, they don't realize that what their movement needs most of all is time. Biden can buy them time. Trump is just gonna, you take one step forward with Biden, you take 20 steps back with Trump. Now that's why I'm supporting Joe Biden. And he's also just, as far as I can tell, he's not a bad dude. I don't agree with him on everything, but I genuinely believe that he wants to help people and that he wants to work with, people like Senator Sanders to make life better.
All right, so I'm gonna be muting myself after you start speaking so that it can be focused mainly on you. So we've done or actually we didn't cover Black Lives Matter. If you want to cover that, if you want to.
Yeah, I totally support it. People respond by saying, "But all lives matter," and I say, "All lives won't matter until Black Lives Matter." Oddly enough, I almost view it as a patriotic / nationalistic thing of, hey, these are my countrymen that are getting killed. And, if the police are able to do this to black people, what's to say that they won't someday do it to people like me? It's about standing up for others and, making sure that everybody can live in this country safely.
That was a really nice, sweet statement to say about it.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So, all right, well, we're going to go back to the coronavirus topic. So, I feel like we might have already covered with this. But, what do you have to say about the situation with the coronavirus? Do you believe that the U.S. could have or should have done a better job of safety and quarantining?
Yes. I love America, but one of my biggest problems with America is there's a cultural misunderstanding about the difference between liberty and just flat out selfishness. Like this whole debate around masks, saying that, oh, it's my right if I don't want to wear a mask. And I'm just like, dude, your rights end where other people's rights begin. And by not wearing a mask and spreading this virus around, you're putting people's lives in danger. One of the rights that, we declared for ourselves in the Declaration of Independence is a right to life. You're literally violating one of our first rights by not wearing a mask. I also think that I really hope that Americans stop and notice what is happening around them. The reason why coronavirus has gotten this out of control is because our government since the 1980s has been completely gutted. There is a section of the political spectrum that doesn't get into government to run it. They get into government to break it and sell off its commodities to the highest bidder. And there's also, this has repercussions because that's happened to our education system. So a lot of Americans are poorly educated, and it's just a vicious cycle. The more poorly educated you are, the more likely you are to support someone who wants to break up the government, because you have a very simplistic view of the world. And the more the government is broken up, the more education gets slashed, and the more uneducated people there are. And the more uneducated people there are, the more likely people are to deny science, which is a horrible thing, especially right now. So I really hope that Americans understand that this didn't happen. I don't want to say that this didn't happen by accident, because that would imply that this was the plan. This was decades in the making. This didn't just happen overnight. And we need to understand that our country is really kind of decaying from the inside out.
I'm thinking that a lot of people will be glad to hear on what you have to say. That's my thing with it. I wish I could have somebody here to debate with you on this topic. Sadly, I don't. But I'm still glad that I at least get to talk to you on what your thoughts in this very interesting year so far. So
yeah, I don't think I've seen a year this tumultuous since 1968. So
what happened in 1968?
What didn't happen in 1968? The Tet Offensive, hippies, coups all over the place. It was, oh man, the A's moved to Oakland. It was a dark time. Actually, one of the reasons why Chiefs fans hate the Raiders so much, there was already animosity between Lamar Hunt and Al Davis, and then Oakland took our baseball team, so a bunch of baseball fans were like, we need to lash out at Oakland somehow. Hey, our football team plays a team from Oakland. We hate them now.
All right. Obviously, with the Confederate flag debate, you gained a lot of recognition and popularity from the media, and I would guess your peers too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, would you say that do you have anything else to say about the Confederate flag with it? Because we talked about this obviously in this interview before, but if you have anything else you want to say.
The other day, President Trump was giving a speech in Minnesota, and he started talking about Robert E. Lee for some reason. And the audience cheered. Why are people in Minnesota cheering for Robert E. Lee? How many boys from that state died fighting Robert E. Lee? It's another symptom of our education system being cut, that people don't know about the Confederacy. They just view them as like charming, dashing, charismatic rebels. Whereas, people like me, we know what they actually did. And it wasn't just slavery. Like, these guys committed legit war crimes. There was Andersonville, where they threw Union troops into prison with no gear, no foods, nothing. They just literally let them starve to death. It was the closest thing that America has ever had to a gulag, aside, I guess, from Japanese internment and, Native American relocations. And also, there was the Fort Pillow Massacre, where Confederate cavalry under Nathan Bedford Forrest, who later founded the KKK, overran a mixed force of black and white Union troops, and they surrendered, which according to the rules of war means, hey, they surrendered, don't kill them. But the Confederates rampaged through the fort, and they yelled, "Take the white man, kill the," I can't even say the word that they said next. And they took the white soldiers alive, and they killed the black troops. And then, of course, there's the Lawrence Massacre, which is why I'm absolutely baffled that anyone in the state of Kansas would be in favor of the Confederacy. These guys rode into Lawrence, Kansas in August of 1863, and they killed anything that moved. 150 men and boys were cut to pieces by pro-Confederate raiders. And that's what annoys me. I don't understand why people in the North I know why they don't know it, but it just makes no sense to me why we've let this revisionist trash corrupt Northern schools. I mean, obviously it was going to take root in Southern schools. I would expect something like that, but how did it get up here? And I think that I really do. I find it so ironic that these people talk about, oh, you have to know and preserve your history. These leftists, they're tearing down statues, disrespecting our ancestors. And I'm like, really? You're the ones who are cheering for a man who killed Minnesota boys en masse because he was too lazy to pick his own cotton. Who really doesn't know their history here? Who's the real patriot?
I applaud you for that. I feel like you're always well informed on every single topic. Honestly, I feel like in a debate you'd do well. You would be very well informed and not very heated in the whole argument or slash debate. But you seem like you're really well informed on everything. Here is the last question, actually 2 more questions. All right. So finally, what do you have to say to those who go against your beliefs majorly, whether for the reasons of religious reasons like hating gays, or people who still believe in the Confederacy, flat out racist, and just honestly anything that opposes against you. So for the question again, what would you have to say to anybody who is like that?
That is a bit of a broad question. I can't just hit him with a blanket statement because, it's a case-by-case thing. For the anti-gay stuff, I would just say, I know that you think that, gay people are hurting others. They're really not. And my whole policy is, if it's not hurting anybody, then you should be allowed to do it. That's why my whole position in the debate was, people should be allowed to fly the Confederate flag, but the state shouldn't. Because, again, it's a contradiction for the state, which is the very thing that the Confederates rebelled against, to fly their flag. It would be like us flying an Imperial Japanese flag at Pearl Harbor, or an Al-Qaeda flag at Ground Zero. It makes no sense. For the people who support the Confederacy, I'm just going to say unequivocally, you're wrong. And I would ask you to please do more research and stop relying on the sons of Confederate veterans for your information, because this stuff is extremely out of date. It's the only time in U.S. history that one of our enemies has so, to use one of their own words against us, has so thoroughly cucked us that they've tricked us into thinking that we were the bad guys. And honestly, I would say the patriotic thing to do is to just let that traitorous rag go. I would say this to, Southerners. I would say this to anyone in the North who sympathizes with the Confederacy. The war is over. You guys lost. You have the potential to do such incredible things with your resources in the South, with the economy that you guys could have. It's just such a wasted potential that you're still wallowing in these past battles, that you refuse to let this go, and that you're dragging down the rest of the country with you. I would just ask, look around. Has holding on to all this stuff ever benefited you? Or maybe it's time to come up with something new to be proud of. Like, take the state of Alabama, for example. They have lots of Confederate monuments up. And so that might say, why don't you take those down and like put up monuments to the Alabama Crimson Tide or the Auburn Tigers? You know, those are two beloved institutions that the state of Alabama can absolutely be proud of. And they never committed war crimes. Well, some of Nick Saban's victories could be considered war crimes, but regardless, I would just say, you know, this stuff is holding you back. Please let go.
That's really different from what I would hear from anybody else. Honestly, I feel like that's the whole truth of it, with the whole honesty and what people should actually do with it. So, for the last question,
honestly, it's partially because I'm in a good mood.
Oh, you're in a good mood? I'm glad I got you in a good mood. All right.
Thank you.
So, last question would be, do you have anything else to say? Like, is something on your mind? Like, as if like during this whole interview, were you expecting me to ask some question, or were you hoping to talk about some type of topic? So I'll give you free reign starting now.
That is a good question. Do I have anything else to say? I think I would say that I, like a lot of people, have gone through a lot of change. I used to be a lot more active on social media. Unfortunately, it was when I was in my right-wing phase. I said some really stupid stuff, and I would apologize for that. I guess I would also say that I did get a lot of crap in high school, but while a lot of it was from some of the people that were, you know, against me in that debate, honestly, the most harsh was from a lot of the people who were on my side in that debate. And I won't go into what happened, but, you know, I would, if I could give any advice to, you know, people like you who are also 15 who might fall into the same trap, just because, you know, it's easy to fall into this worldview that everybody on your side is good and everybody on the opposing side is bad. And that is a pitfall, because one day you discover, oh man, some of the people on my side are bad. And instead of going, maybe there are good and bad people on both sides, instead you go, maybe everybody on the other side is good and maybe everybody on this side is bad. And that's the mistake that I made. And excuse me, I see now that it's the exact opposite, where it's just, you know, there are good and bad people on both sides. I would just advise that people try to think logically, but also not abandon empathy. And that's what I have left to say.
Oh, that's... If everybody in the whole world could at least hear for what the other side has to say, I feel like there'd be less of a split within the whole entire, I guess, world. Because most people always believe that their side is always right, and there's always, as you said, always better people on your side. But that's a really fair statement to say. I am going to take a lot of your advice from all of this. I'm not going to disregard everything you said. I'm going to take it deeply and thoroughly. So I thank you for your conversation. It was... Oh, and
one more thing that I would say to everybody. Mm-hmm. One of the most frustrating things about American politics is that young people just don't vote. And I know that, you know, you're 15, so you couldn't even if you wanted to. But when you get to be 18, and this applies to everybody who sees this, when you get to be 18, I know that it might not interest a lot of you, but please pay attention to what's going on. Draw your own conclusions, and please, for the love of all that is holy for, you know, religious people and all that is beloved by non-religious people, please vote, because that's how we got into this mess.
then I'll make sure to vote when I'm 18. Hopefully, by then we have some more reasonable and less Trump ex Biden type of material than what we have right now. So,
Knock on wood.
So probably in 4 years, I'll hopefully make that right decision. But
Right.
I'm sure
You will.
I'm sure that you know that a lot of people do support you with all this, especially in the comment section. There's a lot of good support there. And to me, I'm sure that everybody around you also supports you with all you do. You seem like you're much more intelligent and well-informed than would be willing to always go to the extra mile in things, such as an example of like the Confederate flag debate on how misinformed Drake Yost was, and you went that extra step to go out and help explain to him whether, and sadly he didn't listen to you that much with it, but at least you...
I believe he threatened to punch me at one point in the debate.
Really?
Yeah.
I can look through it and then find that one clip.
To be honest, it was after I did kind of say something to make him mad. I said something along the lines of "let him get his backward views out," and he said under his breath, "I'm gonna punch him."
Oh, well, I mean, that's how you know you're right. That's how you know you were right with the whole statement, though. If you made him that mad, then it just proves on, like, he felt like as if you were winning the whole debate the entire time. And now he was just spitting out his morals, but you were spitting out facts and your own morals on how much of a traitor the Confederacy actually is. So, back to the thing. I hope that you do well from now on. It's been an interesting conversation with this.
Hey man, anytime.
Yeah, it's quite the delightful. So, we've all almost been talking for an hour too, so that's how these interviews go. But I'll be getting off for now. If you want any last statements to anybody?
Go Chiefs.